Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. If you haven't met me before, my name's Phil. I'm the owner of the Black RS. I have been the other side of the camera several times when Tim hasn't been able to make it for Ford Fair and National Day and Rally GB, so you probably recognise my voice. But due to coronavirus, we had to change our plans a little bit. So the last video you would have seen in this series would have been part 5 when Martin fired the engine for the first time, and that was recorded around mid-March. Now the initial plan was that Martin was going to do the full running, the full 1,000 miles, basically take the car all the way through those miles. He wanted to know what was going on with it. He wanted to be able to experience the engine for the first time. He wanted to know everything. But when we spoke about it with the lockdown that was imminent, it was a case of, if I didn't go and get the car, then I wasn't going to have it for months, and Martin wouldn't have been able to do any test driving in it because it wouldn't have been essential travel and so on. So on the Wednesday before lockdown, we decided that I was going to go up and get the car. So on the Friday I drove over to Plymouth and drove back on the Saturday. By that time Martin had done about 100 or so miles. He had a flavour for how the car was performing and so on and so forth, and because I was a mechanic in a previous life, he was quite happy to entrust me with running it in and keeping an eye on all the fluid levels, making sure everything was as it should be, and I was just going to give him regular reports. But in the rush to pick the car up, there were no more videos done. So that's why you join me now in sunny Eastbourne to give you an update. So Martin did the first 100 miles, and then I did about 250 coming home. I came back on the coast road, so it was a journey that didn't involve sitting on cruise control for hours on end, which wouldn't have done the engine any good. It was A roads and B roads, so it was the opportunity to keep the engine moving up and down the rev range, make sure there was load being put on the engine, because obviously we want to get the piston rings to bed in nice. So by the time I'd got back, the engine had done about 350 miles, there or thereabouts. And then the Monday following that, lockdown started. So the car itself hasn't moved much since then. We're now June 21st, and I'm just approaching the 500 mile mark. And all is good, really good. Engine is absolutely sweet. Coolant levels, oil levels, all absolutely spot on, hasn't lost a drop, and the engine sounds wonderful. No adverse noises, no ticks, no nothing. It's absolutely spot on, which is what I've always come to expect from Martin. He is a perfectionist, and he doesn't let anything leave his workshop unless he's 100% happy with it, particularly with cars that he's doing modifying on. So why did I choose to go the route we went? Well, I was never happy. I think because of my mechanical knowledge, I was cock up as far as the EcoBoost engine was concerned. For a brand new car to need a head gasket is not great. So I was never convinced with this engine, and having seen a few failures on the engines and understanding that the wall of the block is paper thin between sort of pistons 2 and 3 is not great, particularly on an engine that's going to run high power, high boost. And I could never quite work out why the ST block had been made so much stronger when in theory it wasn't going to take the same amount of power. Martin felt the same way. So 2 litre block was on the cards for ages. In fact, Martin picked up the 2 litre block for this conversion probably about a year or so before we actually started the work, because although he picked it up at the time, the brakes were the things that he was developing. So it sat in Plymouth for a good year or so before anything actually happened. So we had plenty of time to discuss what else was going to happen. Yeah, we were originally looking at going with Omega pistons, but they were ridiculously expensive, and the Marlin Motorsport pistons are exceptionally good components, capable of taking 1,000 horsepower probably. Never going to get even close to that. And what we wanted in the engine was for it to be set up to easily handle the power that it was going to be given and not be put on its limit. Another reason why we chose the Arrow rods, same reason. We wanted the engine to be able to be very, very comfortable and have high horsepower. So that was the purpose of picking components like that, and I'm very pleased I did. And it's such a shame that you can't see the Arrow rods, because they're just a work of art. They're absolutely beautiful. So that was my reasons for choosing in that way, like he did. He felt the same way. As far as everything else goes, well, we've got obviously the Simpson exhaust, which is absolutely fantastic. Sounds phenomenal. Originally I came across the Simpson exhausts because it was on the Little Beast, and then of course it was fitted to Monty's #21, and they sound phenomenal. They're so beautifully made, but the tone is just superb. I also like the fact that it had removable baffles, so it could be tuned to a degree to sound quieter, louder, however I wanted it. I wanted to be able to hear a true crisp engine note, and that's the Simpson exhaust just does that perfectly. So that's on there. I'm very pleased with that. The water meth. Well, I mean, one of the biggest killers of horsepower is heat. So if you can find a way to cool the engine and at the same time keep the engine clean, which water meth does, then why wouldn't you do that? You're going to help with your horsepower. I haven't had a chance really because I'm still running in to push it and see what differences it's made, but it definitely feels torquey, and I can hear the pump in the boot when it kicks in, so I know it's working. And then additional with cooling, which is something that we didn't get a chance to speak about, was one of the visions that I'd had for a long time, was I wanted Sierra Sapphire Cosworth bonnet vents in the bonnet of this car. The reason being, well, bonnet vents, yeah, I mean, you want to keep the engine bay cool if you can. If you're going to get a lot of heat soak in the engine and it's going to reduce your performance, then it makes sense to vent it somehow. But particularly I wanted Sapphire Cosworth ones because I just think they're the most beautiful bonnet vents ever in any car. The way they sit flush with the line of the bonnet gives them a sort of an understated look, which I really loved. So that was something that took a little while to achieve. The first thing I had to do was obviously find a donor bonnet, which I managed to find on eBay, and it was in Cornwall, which was fortunate. I got a friend of mine and of MJP's, Pete Harrison. He volunteered to cross the border from Devon to Cornwall to go and collect it for me, which he did. And then you may remember, if you ever watched the Rally GB videos, when Martin took this car and I took his Vauxhall Signum, it was in the back. The bonnet that had been picked up was in the back. So since Rally GB coming back with that bonnet, I had bought another new genuine Ford bonnet from Ford, because I didn't want to cut my original. I wanted to have that option of swapping back and forth, because perhaps in the winter I don't really want water going into the engine particularly. This car doesn't get driven every day of the week. It sits on the driveway, and you know, it sits there in all weathers. I didn't want water just randomly dripping in all the time, so I may swap back for winter. So yeah, I bought the new bonnet, and then I took it to a guy called James O'Brien. Now he runs a company called Liberty Auto Works, which is in East Sussex, not far from Five Ashes, and he is, again, he's a perfectionist. He's very, very skilled at what he does. And what was important in fitting these bonnets was, A, to get the position correct, because we needed them to look right and perform right, but also we needed them to look as factory fitted as possible. We didn't want to just chop them in there and chuck a bit of Sikaflex around there to hold them in. They needed to be properly put in, and unfortunately the position that they needed to go in was where some of the cross members were, so there was quite a lot of intricate work. It wasn't a case of just taking the bonnets out, the bonnet vents out. It was chopping the bonnet around it, which has this beautiful folded lip which the vent sits into, and that all had to be welded into the new bonnet. And anybody that knows anything about welding will realise the skill that went into fitting these vents, because if you weld on a thin panel like a bonnet, you can distort it completely. And being as this is a black car, that was going to show from a mile away. So the level of finish, which I'll show you shortly because I'm going to give you a quick walk around on the car, the level of finish from James, absolutely fantastic. They do look factory. They look like they've been there from day one, and they're amazing. So there we go. I hope I haven't bored you too much. That's a quick update on how things are going. Engine's fantastic, running beautifully. Exhaust note sounds phenomenal. Water meth is working really well. Bonnet vents are looking very, very sexy. All is good. So I'll give you a quick walk around the car and show you the bits and pieces that, although you've seen them on the other videos, this will be your opportunity to perhaps see them finished and clean. Normally, whenever my car goes over to Martin, before I get it back, it goes to John Warren. It gets a nice thorough clean. It was all done so quickly this time. We didn't have that opportunity. So it came back to me filthy. But that's fine. I was in lockdown. I love cleaning this car. I went through it top to bottom. Engine clean, wheel arch cleans, door shut cleans, the whole lot. I'll post some pictures up with this video so you can see how it looks. But it is looking spot on. And I gave it a little wash last night before I did the video. I think I did a time lapse of that. So yeah, I'll give you a quick look around. Absolutely beautiful today. I brought you up to Beachy Head on the South Downs. You should just be able to see in the distance there, that's the Beltoot lighthouse over there. But that lighthouse was so close to the cliff edge at one point that they were concerned that it was actually going to fall into the sea. So they actually picked it up on its foundations and moved it. So let's start at the back. Beautiful Simpson exhaust there. Sounds fantastic. Obviously I haven't been able to take the car up to full revs yet, so about 5,000 RPM is the most it's been so far. You've seen all this before. All fits in nicely. Martin's done a lovely job. Oh, I believe Brett actually did a nice job of cutting and trimming that carpet for me so that I could carry on using the compartments underneath the floor. So that works really well for me. Really pleased about that. Quick plug for my club, Sussex RS Owners Club. All awesome people, some beautiful cars. If you're ever at the shows, it'd be great if you come and have a look. And there's the COS events. Looking absolutely beautiful. As I was saying, we didn't just put the vents in from here. The donor bonnet was actually cut around an inch around the edge so that this beautiful folded lip that can only be pressed in, that was done from the factory, could be transplanted, because that was part of what was going to make it look fantastic. And as you can see, if I can get the right profile, absolutely flawless finish by James. It's not easy to work on a black car, and he did it absolutely beautifully. And so here we are. You've seen all this before, but whether or not you've seen it put together quite like this, all the blue hoses that went into the engine, all matching. These ones were custom made because this being an AirTech crossover pipe came with the darker blue, and it seemed pointless to not match them up, so this one and the one the other side by the turbo was actually custom made. But they are everywhere and look fantastic. Pro Alloy header tank, which was fitted. Big fan of Pro Alloy. As you can see, the coolant level is still spot on. I gave the engine a really thorough clean, so it's looking quite respectable at the moment, which I'm pleased about. Everything looking good. And then the factory finish. Again, this is such a credit to James for the work he did. It's just beautifully finished. Up here you see, this is where he had to cut into the cross member to fit it, and it just looks perfection. It looks like it came out of the factory like that. Such a fantastic job he's done. I'm so pleased. And the vision that I had of these being the best looking vents you can put in a Mark III, and I feel I was absolutely right. And I believe this is the first car to have had that done. So yeah, really pleased with the way everything's gone. With regards to the future, so what's next? Well, I'm at about 500 miles on the car now, so I've got about another 300 to do, and then it will go back over to Martin so that he can do all his post checks, and then we'll see where we go from there. I know there will be more videos to follow because not everything is finished yet, but I'm not really going to reveal any more because that's down to Martin to do his videos on. So hopefully this has updated you. Strange times that we've been going through as a country, as a world really. But hopefully not much longer. All will be well. So hopefully you've enjoyed my little update, my video. If you could smash the like button, that would be great. If you haven't already subscribed, please do. There will be more content to come. And until then, I wish you well and thank you.